Who are all of
You came to see us. No.
Okay. Hello, I'm Micah, or Micah Myers. I'm a letterer. I've been nominated for a couple of awards for lettering. I work for like DC and Image and Dark Horse, a bunch of other people, and I just spend all my time lettering comics. I don't even really even have any downtime. That's all I do.
I feel you on the downtime. My name is Lee. I am a webcomic artist on Instagram, and I make a lot of slice of life comics about like mental health, emotions, and whatever else comes up. And I also do animations too.
Hi, everybody. My name is Steve Urena. I am a writer of horror comedy comics. So I do fast killer sloths, zombies interrupting a blind date, Santa fighting robots, and a demon possessed superhero gets her powers from cursing. I have not won any awards yet, but I'm pretty sure that Kickstarter gave me a project they don't like. Sorry.
Let's turn off routine.
Kat and it's going as Kendra Kat, doing it for like 15 years by this point. We've given numerous talks at different shows like Small Press Expo and TCAF, and our comics, we do queer erotic romance comics, and then we also do zines on Nick Cage and wrestling. So it's just
And K-pop.
and K-pop now. So all the things we are interested in.
Best of all worlds.
Yeah.
Well, for Kendra and I, we self-publish, so that means we have a laser printer that does duplex printing. So we print out our pages, staple them, we do the covers on another color printer. So that's how we go.
There you go. Hi, so I self-publish my comics as well. So I go through a thing called Comics Experience. They are schools. So if you're trying to write comics, or, draw comics, letter comics, they have classes for anything you would like to do in comics. So they also have a creative services program. So I'll find artists through there who, because I can't draw, I'll find artists through there who have great portfolios, and I'll pick based on what I'm writing about. And then they have a full service printer that they work with me. But if you want to print comics, there's so many great. Just look in your area, look in your town. There's so many people that can do it. But it's just you got to just take a look, depending on what your needs are.
Some of my comics I make by hand, especially if I like no time, like the day before the convention or event. I usually print them out at home and staple. However, when I do have the time, I use a service called Mix'em. You pretty much give them a PDF and they're able to pretty much put it together for you. Sometimes they have like issues, but such is life. So that, and I also usually announce when I'm doing, like when I'm posting them or when I'm selling them as well online. So yeah.
The comics that I've made myself, I got printed. It just left my head. Oh, Comics Wellspring. There you go. So website. You just like she said, just give them like a your PDF, and then it just prints it out for you. So, and then you come in a nice little box in a few weeks, and it's a nice like Christmas.
We got into publishing indie comics. We've been friends since college and roommates, and we kind of just came up with characters at the time. Did not actually go anywhere with the comics until this is back in the day of LiveJournal. Shout out to LiveJournal. I miss
Wow.
it. RIP. But we found a group of people who were putting out a collaboration anthology. And so we gave them our pitch and did a short 8-page comic for it. And after that, we're like, oh my gosh, we got printed. We can do comics. This is something we can do. And then from there, we've just been doing it since.
So I've been doing comics since 2020. Again, my origin story is that I cannot draw, right? So I'm a writer in my regular life. So I always wanted to write comics, but I feel like there's a lot of schools out there that are art schools, but not as many writing schools for writing comics. So I was able to find, like I said before, Comics Experience, which is an online school. I took a class. I wrote a story about fast killer sloths in the class, and people liked it, and they told me, hey, we can find an artist to do this for you. It's already done. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll make it. We'll see what happens. I ran a Kickstarter for it. I only was asking for $2,000. I made 10. And so from there, I was like, I think I got something here. I'm going to take whatever money I make from comics and move it into the next project. And now we're 5, 6 comics deep now, and keeping it going. So I appreciate everybody who gets the comics, and that's where I wanted to do make stuff that I want to see.
It all started in elementary school. So I had this little creature, I want to say it was a mouse, and I called it Ratso. And I really started I would add my classmates into the Ratso comics, but only the classmates that I liked. And so I started sharing that around, and I really enjoyed the process of making something and having it based off of my life. Um, Over time, I started using comics a little bit more, slice of life type, where I pretty much write down how I'm feeling and what I'm going through. And I started just kind of keeping that to the side. I didn't really share it with anyone or anything. I was just like, I'm making this for me, and that's all that matters. And then later on, I started to share my comics a little bit more online, and it made me realize that I'm not alone in how I feel sometimes. Since I deal with like a lot of mental health stuff, whatever. But I mean, who doesn't? But um, so I pretty much kind of kept going and with connecting with other people on social media, and that's why I mainly do my comics on Instagram. However, I started making physical ones because I really like the process of actually putting together the comic, and so I started like doing it by hand. And then like I found out that I can use a service, and I was like, wow. So that's why I do a mix of the two.
I got after high school, like 10 years of just doing a bunch of random jobs, trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. And got into comics, like reading comics like in 2006. And I kind of, everybody kind of, when you get into comics, kind of like, hey, this could be a dream job, like anything else. But I just started looking into it, and I looked into lettering, and I went to Comics Experience, like he was talking about, and their classes were too expensive for me.
Yes.
So they have like a lettering class, but it was too much. So I just read every blog, every like YouTube video about lettering. I just watched it all, read it all. There's a couple of books at the time from DC and from Comic Craft, and I read those and just started doing it and just started practicing and messing around with it. And in 2013, people started hiring me, and from there, I just kept getting hired and finding new work. I've, started making my own comic just so I could have something that was mine because I was just working on other people's stuff. Um, and it just worked out. I mean, just like, not been easy, but at this point, I mean, it's since 2013, it's been my career. And now I can actually say it actually is working out as a career because I'm actually making enough money. Um, but if my wife wasn't a nurse, I would not be making enough money. But yeah, I'm making a little bit of money now, so it's nice.
So for me, um, whatever your project is, so I do a lot of Kickstarter, so that's where the money has been coming in from. And this is my first year of doing cons. But I think if you're making a project, you got to tell people about it. You can't, I know a lot of people are, kind of scared to talk to people sometimes, and it could be very intimidating, but only you know how great your stuff is and how exciting, and your characters backwards and forwards. So you gotta be able to sell them. So for me, horror comedy has been a lot of fun because if you can make a one sentence thing about what your comic is about and it creates intrigue, that's a great way to like bring people in. So like I said, fast killer sloths, people are like, what? And then they'll come in and like I have the shirts. But yeah, have fun with your comics. Do the things that you want to see. So for me, I want to see for fast killer sloths, like I got merch that says hot sloth summer on it. And I was like, I would buy a shirt like that. I make merch for all my comics. I've done songs. I'll do podcasts, whatever I can do to market yourself. Definitely, read some marketing books, and share. I mean, share as much as you can. There's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's X or whatever's left of X. You know what I mean? And you got to shout from the heavens. You got to be your own promotional tool because nobody's gonna promote for you. You got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you have the mic.
Yeah.
Okay. Something that we primarily do is just going to conventions. We started out going to DC Zine Fest, and when people actually gave us money for our work, we were like, oh my gosh, we can sell these. So we started going to different conventions. From there, conventions, you end up networking, you meet other artists, you also meet owners of local bookstores and comic shops. Sometimes they'll buy your stuff on consignment there. Sometimes you need to go out and actually go to the comic shop and just say, hey, do you stock indie comics? There's a great scene around that. And occasionally within your network and community, you'll have friends who will, repost your art or talk about your work. And we've actually had stores reach out to us that way as well, where they're like, oh, we saw this artist mentioning your work.
Yeah, for background, Kendra and I both have day jobs, so comics is not our main income source, and we have limited time, so we decided to focus less on online marketing and more on conventions and in person. So we've done stuff like try to make our covers more appealing. Initially, we did black and white covers. We switched to color for that reason. We have little signs explaining like kind of what our deal is. My goal was setting up a table so that if someone would like our kind of thing, they can look at the table and see that that's what it is. Like just make sure to make your unique selling point clear. And like what's your genre, what's your style. That's our approach.
So there's a couple of ways that I approach marketing. Since I'm also since I do both physical and digital art, there's kind of different methods to what I do. So in the physical aspect of my work, I go to conventions. It's conventions I like the best, and um, it's the perfect way to get comics in hands and have people preview what you have. Being consistent and I don't want to say branding, but it really is branding. Like for me, I use consistent colors, consistent font, consistent like style. So that throughout each convention, even though my setup kind of changes because I have like 6 foot or 8 foot or 3 foot, people will still recognize who I am. There's also like a lot of my animations have been kind of like some of them have gotten a million views, and so I people recognize me because of the art style as well. So being active on social media does help because sometimes they're like, "Oh, now I have to buy something." I'm like, "Cool." So that's always pretty helpful. And since most of my stuff is online, I do have a Patreon too, and that's usually how I kind of fund that part of my that part of my comics. Am still in the process of like learning how to actively push myself out there because it is as you said, it's very easy to be like, oh, I don't want to be a seller. Oh, I don't want to. But like people will not buy if they don't know that it's for sale.
Be
Um,
a sellout.
yeah,
Sell.
be a seller.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
But
Um,
I would say also for all your stuff, if you're creating things, trademark, go look at LegalZoom, all that stuff, copyright everything, just to make sure, just to be sure to protect yourself.
yes, 100%. And just like I lost my thought. It's okay. Here you go.
I mainly market myself through social media, all the different things, post everywhere. I work, like I said, I work mostly with other people's stuff, and I try and help promote. Because I worked on it and I'm proud of it. So I want those people to sell lots of stuff. So try and share what I'm working on and what the people that I work with are working on. I I used to do a lot more conventions, but they just get pricey, and then obviously for a while we couldn't do any of them. Uh, But I'm also kind of awkward when talking to people at a table. So like social media, is easier for me. When I'm at the table, usually my wife or kids are with me. And my kids are now teenagers, so they can kind of be they're a little bit more outgoing than me and friendlier. Um, so I know a lot of comic people are kind of awkward, so it's hard. It's definitely hard to stand at a table and have strangers walk up and just start a conversation, especially when you're trying to sell yourself. Like you're not just trying to sell, like you're not working like a retail job where you're selling, towels. You're selling something that you made. So you're selling yourself to them, and when they look at it, just walk away, just kind of like a, kick in the shins. So it can definitely be disheartening sometimes. But I mean, you made something, and that's a step further than a lot of people ever make. There's all kinds of people come up to, my table, and I'm sure everybody else's table, and like, oh, I have this great idea for a comic. That's going to be great. Well, what do you have so far? I haven't started yet. And it's like, well, that's step one. Start doing something. Start sketching, start writing, start whatever it is. Find somebody, look online, find somebody else that you could work with. Just start making something. Even if it's bad, just start making something. Because if you keep doing it, eventually it'll get good. I mean, that's all I guess. That's
I would also say when it comes to marketing, it doesn't always have to be, hey, buy my stuff. It can also be, hey, I want to inform you on how I make this thing and you should check it out. So don't be afraid to try and find a different way to frame it. People love seeing behind the scenes and they also love seeing previews. So don't be afraid to just be like, hey, this is what I'm working on. Maybe put it on an Instagram story or Instagram post. I live on Instagram, as you can see. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do it without having to be like, hey, this is $5. You should buy it right now. Yeah. Shout out to the Comics Accountability Club. I love them so much. They are a group of comic artists that I came across. Someone like came to me and was like, "Hey, do you want to join this club?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness, yes." And it's just a bunch of artists that support each other and everything. It's mostly like East Coast artists and like I could give you the information later if you need, but it's really cool to like see these people like Micah's a part of the Comics Accountability Club, and so I get to see like works of progress of like his type of stuff. Sometimes we do drawing challenges, and that's pretty fun when it comes to things outside of like that circle though, it's really good to interact with people at conventions. Don't be afraid to go up and be like, hey, I really like your art and how did you do this, or what inspired you to do this. Don't be afraid to be somebody's fan, um, and don't be afraid to talk about yourself as well. So when you're walking around these conventions, bring your business cards because you never know who you're gonna meet and you never know who you're gonna contact. I also bring my business cards outside of events as well. I always joke, I'm like, I always got that thing on me. So that is my business cards. So
I'm like social media still. This is how I meet a lot of people. People will post they're making a comic and they need a letterer, and I will reply with a bunch of other people. And that's always can be kind of intimidating, especially when you see like other people have already applied. But I am proud of my work and I think my work's good, so I, just add my name to it, and I get a lot of work that way. I get a lot of work just from having worked on stuff, and people will see it in stores or like at a con table, um, and they'll be like, "Hey, I saw your stuff and it looks great. Let's make something together." Online people they'll make posts saying that they're open for commissions or they're looking for, an artist looking for someone to work with. Just being like searching for, that kind of stuff online, like keywords like, looking for work, that kind of stuff for artists, or a writer looking for an artist. Just keep an eye out on, like X is kind of dead now because of, you know, the asshole that runs it. But like Blue Sky and Facebook, Instagram, all kinds of stuff. There's places like you said, the comic accountability group, the comic experience, which you have to pay to be a part of, but I mean, it's still got a lot of cool stuff going on with it. Um, yeah, I mean, that's how mostly I meet people is online. But yeah, comics conventions are great. You know, walking or you got to be a little bit more outgoing and kind of start the conversation with people. But I mean, if that's what you can do, uh, definitely just talk to everybody, hand out your cards, have a portfolio, show it to anybody that uh, is willing to look at it. And yeah, that the main thing with comics is you have to be your own self-promotion person because no one else is going to do it for you. So you got to kind of push yourself to be outgoing and then just kind of recharge later. It can be very draining to be social for at least for me, I know. But yeah, just put yourself out there and show everybody your art and whether it's writing or coloring or whatever it is, just show everybody, tell everyone how great you are, and eventually someone will see it and want to work with you.
I live by one simple phrase: your vibe attracts your tribe. So the more again with the killer sloths or zombies or whatever the horror stuff, you put yourself out there, somebody's gonna talk back at some point. So that I've been very lucky with comics experience to find great artists. But a lot of my friends and a lot of people I work with artists at my real job, they'll be like, "Hey, can I do this for you? Hey, can I do this for you?" And I'll just be like, "Yeah, let's figure it out. Let's make it work." Like the fact that I have shirts made, like this, the artist who did this, his name is Vertebrae33. He has stuff in Hot Topic, and he's willing to do a Killer Sloth shirt for me. I'm like, because we're, again, your vibe attracts your tribe. As long as it sounds fun, people are willing to work on it. Sorry again.
I think jumping off of it, that is a big truism for our space. And doing queer erotic comics, it's at least like when we first started doing it over 10 years ago, there weren't many web comics of that type. And so it ended up where you would end up in a lot of the same spaces and befriend a lot of the other creators. And it's been a great space for us. So many of the collaborations that we've done have been with other artists in that sphere and friends we've made along the way, which it sounds trite, but it's been incredibly true for us. We also started doing local art jams when we were up in DC before the pandemic, which we then continued doing on Discord after that. And so to this day, we're still doing art jams with our friends across the country that we've made at conventions, just on the regular. And it's been a great space. We'll end up talking and go to the same conventions, and then we're able to also just like work on projects together if we're interested in the same thing.
Well, just if you do want to meet other creators who might possibly be local to you, conventions, especially smaller conventions, are a good place. Or if it's the kind of convention that gives you an exhibitor badge, then like you see the other people with the badge and you're like, oh, hey, how's your day been going? Like you have immediately a kind of kinship, and that can be a good way to meet people, especially if you've gone to a few events and seen them a few times. You just naturally form a community.
You can tell people are creators because everybody is blind. All of us are blind. All of us have have the glasses.
So I know someone or does stuff on. So how do you guys balance that? Like, are there any like tools or like processes?
Not well.
I would say for me, having a partner that I work with on comics is a big motivating factor because, I want to show Kendra what I've been working on and want to get stuff done because, we work together and I'm going to pull my weight. So just, I guess, even if you're not working directly with someone else, just kind of having an accountability partner, someone who you show your work, that helps a lot. And then the other thing for me is just having a habit of like, okay, I come home, I eat dinner, then I sit down and draw. Just if it's a habit, then you don't have to think about when to make time.
And then having convention deadlines that also get stuff done.
It's a
Oh, okay. I'll let you go.
okay. So yeah, schedule definitely helps. But for me, so there's an author, Joyce Carol Oates, who said like if you write in a journal, that's your most free because there's no pressure on you. There's no you're not being looked at under a lens or anything like that. You're writing at your own pace, doing what you want to do. So comics is that for me. So like I write in my day job too, so that's like more corporate writing or more based on whatever the company wants me to do. But for comics, that's where I have fun. This is where I'm like, I'm not putting out a comic unless I think it's fun, I think it's, a good time, or it's my style of thing or something I want to see. So I have, if you're a writer, I have a notepad in my phone of just ideas, and they go back all the way to like 2006, and I'll just go back and be like, oh, that's what I did, and then I'll go and start workshopping it. But again, just have as much fun as possible and write the things that you want to see because only you can bring that to life. So yeah, definitely schedule and write notes and have fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, make the thing that you'll have fun making, and then it won't be as hard to work on it because you'll have fun.
Scheduling is really important when it comes to trying to get stuff done. I personally thrive off of deadlines, especially if I'm working with someone who's commissioning me. If they say, "Oh, just, get it done whenever," I'm like, "No, you have to give me a deadline. That's the most important part of this." And it's just because, like, that's kind of how we were trained to do it in school. So that's kind of how it works for a lot of people. My planner is like my best friend, and I usually set just deadlines for myself. And I try my best not to beat myself up too much. If I miss that deadline, I'm just like, I gave myself the extension. I'm the teacher here. I give myself the extension. So that really helps. Also, just being accountable, like having a partner is really good too. I have an assistant, and my assistant is just like, I tell him, like, I'm gonna get this done by this time. Can you remind me to get this done by this time? So that's really helpful. And also posting on social media is really good just to be like, hey, I'm doing this thing, just a heads up, like, guys, I'll give you an update, I swear. Um, but that's a double-edged sword. However, because sometimes not talking about something can get you to finish it so you can finally talk about it. So there's multiple ways. There's no right way to balance like your personal time and your actual like your real work, your real work and whoa, your real work and your day job. There you go. That's what I meant. Um, there's no like correct way. And if something works one way for like 5 months and it changes, that's just because you are changing and growing as a person, and it might go back to the way that you had before. So there's also that. I've used trackers before, and then sometimes I don't use trackers, and then I go back, and it's just like a whole thing. But I get it done. Shout out to deadlines.
Um, I can't give too much advice because I do not do it the correct way. Everything they just said is right. I just work all the time because it's my only job and because I have a wife and kids and I'm uh, trying to survive. I'm just always working because I work freelance. So when I finish something is when I get paid for the most part. Um, Taking more breaks and trying to find that balance is definitely important and something I'm trying to find myself um, through just having my wife trying to keep me accountable, just stop and take a break, and therapy, probably other stuff like that. Trying to also encourage me to give myself a little bit more of a break because I just work. It's not what you have to do. I mean, you can definitely you know, have a life and enjoy it. And but yeah, I'm trying to get there pretty much. But yeah, like yeah, it's definitely important because you're gonna burn. At some point I'm gonna burn myself out, and that's no good. So definitely trying to find a balance is an important thing. that I guess probably all of us try and do. I mean, I'm just saying I'm probably not doing it the best at it, but it's definitely an important thing to find because yeah, if you love making comics and you love comics in general, you don't want to burn yourself out on it. You don't want it to become the job and become the thing that you uh kind of like when you wake up, to go to the office job or something. You don't want it to be that. You want it to be the thing you do for fun and you enjoy doing for the rest of your life. Because I mean, you can keep making comics forever. I mean, there's no like, it's not like manual labor where at some point your body gives out. You're just sitting at a desk writing or drawing, or I mean, you can do this forever. So there's not a real physical drain to it, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, I'm probably not the best person, but yeah, just trying to find that balance.
On dealing with burnout as well, I started scheduling my breaks. Um, so even like scheduling deadlines has helped. Scheduling breaks has also helped. I started like getting hobbies. I go to the gym now, and I'm so proud of myself. But just being consistent with something that isn't art helps you kind of separate your mind and not have things kind of meld together as well.
And then two things. One, the more you do things, the better you'll get at it. So it might feel like a very daunting task at first to start creating, but then by the time you do it more regularly, like, hey, I know how to do this. So for me, definitely fake it till you make it because imposter syndrome is real, but I like being an imposter. I like being the one that's a little bit different, a little bit kooky, because at the end of the day, it's like everybody's an imposter. Nobody knows how to do this off the bat until you do it. And then that's how you get more experience. And then the second, when you're coming up with ideas, it's like a faucet. Sometimes a lot of water comes out and a lot of ideas come out, but sometimes it's just a little drip. So you gotta, like she said, take breaks. Um, have other hobbies, play video games. Maybe blocks, whatever those hobbies are. Because if you're focusing on something else, an idea might come across your brain because you're more relaxed and you're more open to other things.
Uh, I guess something that I wish I had taken into account when we first started making comics was being very aware of how printing works and like picking a page size that was easy to print. In our case, we decided eventually to do no bleed because otherwise you have to trim the pages. Like thinking about what is easier and cheaper to print so that you can set your art up that way and not have to make changes at the end when you're like, I'm all done, time to print. Oh, it's gonna be, so much extra if I have full bleed, or I have to get a weird custom size and it'll cost extra. Just oh, and page count. You have to have multiples of 4, because that's how pages work. Stuff like that. Just having that in mind at the beginning to avoid having to rework your first comic will save you some headaches.
I think what I wish I knew was that I'm not alone when it comes to making comics. I know it's pretty easy as an artist to be locked up in your room, quietly working and, making sure everything is perfect. But being a part of the overall context of being like comics in general will really help inspire you as well. And it's just, it's nothing is created in a vacuum. And I always tell myself that. So, for example, if you're making something and you don't use any outside influences, you're going to probably be making something exactly like the last influence that you had. Um, so making your media consumption as diverse as it can be is really helpful and just making sure that you're actively in the community, helping out your fellow artists, everything.
That's so what I wish I learned, and I hope that you guys take this, with a grain of salt, but you guys can do it too. That was the biggest thing because I couldn't draw and I couldn't do art in terms of that, but I can make comics and people can, you guys can do anything as long as you put the work in. There's a book by Malcolm Gladwell. It's like 10,000 hours. The more hours you put in, the more an expert you become. So, if you told me when I was a kid that these are the comics that I'm going to make, I wouldn't have believed you. So yeah, you can do it too, and definitely do your research on pricing and in terms of printers and things like that. Definitely do your research before. So I did my first Kickstarter, and I didn't know how much comics were going for, so I was like, $3, five, whatever. And then I quickly learned, I was like, no, there's postage, there's there's this. Luckily, I made the money for it to get to cover all that, but that was just me being dumb and naive. And luckily, I've learned since then, since then. But yeah, definitely do your research. But you guys can do it too.
I,
Go, you go.
I got one more thing. Oh my goodness. Okay, so past me would have been so like they would cringe at what I'm making now. They would be like, "Oh, this is so like bottom of the barrel, low hanging fruit, etc., etc." And now I feel so much freer making what I make now. I do have a more traditional background and I can do realism, blah, 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 blah. I can make stuff deep, whatever. But I was not afraid to pivot. Um, and I think that's really helped me as well with just making art and staying relevant as a comic artist as well. Um, like I also make animations on the side and it's helped me grow my audience as well as making the comics. And so I'm like, oh, you like my animation? Check out my comic. So pivoting is don't be afraid to like if something isn't working, you don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater or anything, but just think to yourself, how can I update this? How can I change this? What is working? What is not working? And how are other people doing it? And what is working for them as well is really helpful. So pivot.
I was gonna say, maybe not something that I didn't know before, but something that when you're making something new, that you should know is like the printer that you're going to get it done at is going to have a bunch of specs that you should know before you start making comics and start making the pages. Like as a letterer, I get the pages last usually, and I'll ask the person what size they printing the book at, and they won't know an answer. And I say, well, every single page is a different size that you just sent me. So that's going to be a problem later. Uh, or like multiples of four, like you have an odd number of pages, or hey, the page one can't be a double page spread because that has to be on it has to be on a even number page because the number two, four, six, all those are on the left side, and then the right side would be the other half of the double page spread. You can't start it on the first page. Stuff like that. Of the knowing how the comic's going to be made down the road before you start is probably pretty important because especially if it's your first comic, there's a lot of things you need to know before you start uh, putting pen to paper because otherwise you're going to have a whole bunch of problems when you go to print it. Uh, but yeah, that's something that you should, maybe not for me, but if you're new to this, that's something you should know before you start.
I would also say follow your muse because the idea that is the most exciting to you will keep coming about. My thing is if it gives my parents something embarrassing to talk about, that means I'm probably going in the right direction.
On the technical aspect, also, if legibility is important to you, just make sure you pick a font that is clear. Yeah.
And then also on the technical aspect, not to like scare anyone away from trying to make a comic that you have to do lots of research. You can take like one sheet of paper, fold it a few times, and make a little tiny 8-page thing that you can Xerox. It doesn't have to be a big printing project, but if it's going to be, make sure you know how you're printing it before you draw. Yeah. Well, for me, sometimes I'd say the most difficult part is just getting it done. Like sometimes my motivation is flagging, or it feels like I've been working on something forever and I can't show it to anyone yet. So just getting through those slow parts, and then the most rewarding part is when it's done, holding it. Wow, I made a real comic. Look at that. So And that part will come more often if you make short comics. Is the tip. Nice little tiny ones. You can get that feeling of being done frequently. And it's very satisfying.
So I would say the most rewarding part of making comics is that I make comics. I really like the process. It's a friend we made along the way. I really like the process of creating something and having a final product and having it in my hands or completing like an animation or an illustration, any of that, just the fact that I can complete something that I didn't think I could, is very rewarding. The challenging part is when like no one else notices. Sometimes like you put something out there and you're like, yo, this is a banger. This is gonna be the best thing ever. And then like people are like, I could take it or leave it. So sometimes having that outside validate, like not having that outside validation can be a little rough, but the fact that I completed something just it makes it worth it.
Um, I think it's really cool that I get to work on other people's stuff. Like I get to make somebody else's dream come true. Like somebody else had this comic book idea and they wanted to make it look professional and cool. And I mean, they just wanted to have this is their idea that they spent, sometimes years thinking about, and this is it's finally here. They can hold it. And I was a part of it, doing the lettering, doing the sound effects, all that kind of stuff. Like I was part of that dream that they had, and now my name's a part of it. They see the realization of their dream, and that's a pretty cool thing that I get to be a part of. I'm working on like indie comics that I get to do that a lot. That somebody had, like I said, they had their idea, they got a publisher, or they just publish it themselves, whichever. I mean, working on like stuff for Image and Dark Horse and like DC Comics. I'm a part of DC Comics. Like that's that whole history of all the creators that were a part of it. I'm in there too. And that's pretty cool. Like for a guy who came from a small town in Virginia to be a part of, this humongous thing. It's pretty cool. I mean, I think it's pretty but but yeah, like just being a part of this thing and being able to hold being able to hold a comic in your hand and be like, I made this. Like, I have a comic that I wrote. I didn't draw it, but I had somebody else drew it for me and they helped be part of my dream. Uh and having my own thing. It's mine. I made it. It's forever, like I said, so many people have an idea for a comics and they want to get into comics and they don't ever start it. I got a finished product in my hand. I did it. I made a thing. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's the main thing that makes me excited to be a part of it. It's the hardest part of it. The challenges is just like I said, it's still work. It's still, it's hard sometimes. You're drained and got to push yourself to finish things for deadlines and for all that kind of stuff, all the usual kind of stuff that comes along with work. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're creating something that's pretty cool.
I think also jumping off of this, we've been in comics long enough and made a lot of friends and talked to people about comics that empowering others to make comics and just spreading that power of creation to others has been fantastic. So just being able to serve as a mentor in the community and to help people give them information, be able to connect them with the right people in the industry, just anyone that's been like, hey, I have this comic because you inspired me to make comics has been an amazing feeling. So that has been so rewarding.
For me, the most difficult part about comics is topping yourself. So like you grow with every comic you make and you change as you get older and you learn about different writing styles and reading books about writing. So it's crazy to do. So with the Killer Sloths, I've done two of those. I did a comic about zombies interrupting a blind date, Santa fighting robots, and then like a demon possessed superhero gets her powers from cursing. So all different things. I could have just stayed with the sloth stuff and probably done fine. But for me, it's just I want to be able to show different sides of myself. And yes, I love all that stuff. And people have been giving me sloth gifts and sloth shoes and whatever I need to get, and I love it. It's the best. But topping yourself is the hardest part, and that could be the toughest part because you don't want to do the same thing over and over again. You want to try things different. You want to be like, all right, I did this in slow pokes. Maybe I'll try this for foul mouth, or maybe I'll go a different way. Trying not to rely on the same tricks or the same things that you're known for. And then the most rewarding part has been travel. So for me, this is my first year doing these cons, and at first I was like, all right, maybe I'll see. I'm not as known as these guys up here, and I'm just trying to find my way and figure it all out. But applied, I've applied, and this is my 11th one this year, which has been pretty cool. I've been doing horror cons too, which is had been crazy. Like definitely, find your genre. There's so many different people. Like I said, your vibe attracts your tribe. People love horror. There's all types of horror cons and conventions, and I feel like those are not as talked about as much as comics stuff. And it's within the same camp. But just to be able to travel, I was in Nashville a few weeks ago. I did St. Louis. I've been in Virginia, and I'm from Connecticut, so I came here to be here for this. And it's been a blast because I've been making new friends and meeting the most talented people and learning as well. So I'd say that is the most rewarding part of this.
Also, like being a part of community and everything, mostly working on meeting people online and everything. I have worked with people all over the world, like from my apartment in Virginia. I worked with not just, Canada, Mexico, Europe, Asia. I mean, I have friends all over, and through that, they become, if you work with them enough, they become your friends, and you've got friends all over the world, and all part of this, kind of comic world that we're a part of. You go to cons, he's going to cons all over the country, you're meeting people all over the place. And, you come back home and you got, like an international friend list. You're, like I said, you're just one creator in, Virginia or wherever everybody here is from. And you have worked with all people all over the place, all over the country, all over the world. It's a cool thing to think about. I mean, I think about it a lot. It's, if I was stuck with, painting houses or doing electrical work like I used to do, probably I'd know the people in my community and that's about it. But I know people all over the world, and we're all a part of this, kind of community together. I don't know. I think it's, yeah.
Yes, what's your question?
So it's come up a couple of different times. A lot of the time, the biggest gratification or your payouts come when you finish projects. But it would seem to me like there's an incentive for you to have different stages of work in the pipeline at the same time so that you're always finishing something.
Yeah.
So you always have a paycheck coming, you always have something to release. Is it hard to schedule things so that you could be starting something like one day and then like moving on to finishing a different project? Like that next week, you know what I mean? So you
Yeah.
always have something coming through.
So are you asking about prioritizing?
Yeah.
Okay. So regarding prioritizing things, I like to plan backward. So I figure out what the deadline is and what's the minimum viable product for this like project that I'm working on. And then I go backwards and say, okay, from a week from now, I should have this done. A week from before, I mean, like a week from earlier, I should have that done. So like if I'm working on an illustration, I would say like, okay, the illustration's due on the 10th. I should at least have like color by the 5th and maybe line work by the 2nd. So kind of going backwards kind of helps me understand what is important. Some projects are less of a heavy lift than others, and you'll find a way to balance that as well. And kind of like play by ear and be like, okay, I need to like spend a whole hour trying to get the hands right. So you'll figure out how long things take you. But I I think that yeah, working backward is good.
So, with lettering, it's a lot. I mean, like, when you're drawing a comic, it takes a month. I mean, really, like a 22-page comic or something, it could take a month. It could take longer than a month, especially if it's just a thing you do, as aside from your like day job. With lettering, I can letter like a 22-page comic in like 8 hours. If I'm like not, if I'm focused 100% on it. Otherwise, like a day, I can letter a comic. So I take as much if someone offers me a job, I take it. Like I don't say no to anything because I just keep working. Um, but it can become a problem when if the deadlines
Overlap.
overlap. There's the word. Overlap each other. It can it can get sketchy sometimes. It is more important to kind of um, schedule and plan out things, especially if you're doing more than just one part of the job like I do. Um, it can become, yeah, it's you gotta there's websites, there's apps, there's all kinds of stuff that you can get to help schedule out and plot out, what your month's gonna be. And it's important because otherwise, yeah, you get overlapping things and you can get in trouble because then you can't finish what you're supposed to be doing.
If you're unsure how to time things, I would recommend using an app called A Tracker, just to get used to being like, okay, because time is so different when you're working on an art piece. Um, so it's like sometimes I realize that like a 5 minutes is like 5 hours, and I'm like, oh my God. So A Tracker, I highly recommend. It's available for both Android and Apple. And you literally can like start and stop the time. It's just like a stopwatch, but with different topics. So A Tracker, A and then Tracker. Yeah, the letter A, yes. Hmm.
With writing, I'm not on the same level of art as these amazing people here. But in terms of writing and writing stories and things like that, I always think of things as like a feeling of you'll know what you want to schedule out your things to be. So for me, like I started with I do Kickstarters, and that's been working for me too. But it's also less is more, and also you can't be missed if you don't go away. So when you're making things, you want to be making a million comics. Like at least for me, making comics like every week, and there's people who are sick of you. I want people to anticipate, and I want people to be like, oh, when's this next project come out? We're excited for it, but also don't want to wait too long as well.
With the day job, making comics, my main constraints aren't financial, it's time. Time is my precious resource. So for Kendra and I, like whenever we're finishing a project, we're brainstorming what we want to work on next. It's the most fun thing that'll be fun for both of us to work on. That's that's the important thing for us to figure out what is most worth our time.
Right. Well, that's time for our panel. I'm sure they're open for questions, like at the tables. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us as well.